Right, just ticking around the markets again. Where we at? 5 to 11. So we've got Asia session just underway at the moment, and the big sort of bit of news overnight, obviously, was the US CPI. Crazy price action around it. So basically, in short, it came in. Previously was 3.2%. They're expecting a tick up to 3.6%. Came in at 3.7%. So more or less in line with expectations, and it was slightly up in that. So there wasn't any sort of real shock, and that's the thing with these sort of news events. When you're sort of getting these parts where, so I'll flick onto DXY as we do it. When you sort of get these news events, even if it is by textbook definition, okay, higher CPI will then sort of lead to a higher expectation of a rate rise. You got to take into the factor the idea that one, it was already expected, so obviously slightly priced into the market, and two, what else is sort of coming out? And this is what I was saying in the video yesterday, that even if it did get this push, it could be very short-lived because we've got the ECB tonight, and ECB's coming out with a 25 or expected with a 25% basis point increase, and the rate decisions are the tier one bits of news. Like, you know, CPIs are very sort of good indicators, but again, they're just the second tier. So, you know, you've got the sort of speculation on the CPI sort of leading to higher rate rises, but then you've got that against the ECB actually, well, expected to, but actually raising rates. So, as I said, it would be quite sort of short-lived, and as we can see now, sort of on Asia Open, DXY certainly people seem to be positioning. I'd assume this is a lot of people sort of like, I would say it's like mainly sort of euro strength. Like, I'm not a big euro trader, but obviously, you know, making up such a large part of the DXY, that would be the big driver, as I was talking about with the ECB. And we can see obviously it's pushing up here. It is sort of coming into a bit of a sort of quite a sort of well-known sort of falling resistance here. So it's certainly not out of the woods yet, but yeah, certainly a bit of a push there to start with. So going back to the DXY, so if we have a look on the sort of lower time frames, it'll give us a better picture of what was actually happening at the time of the news. And you can see here, if we get on even a little bit lower, because this thing was just whipping around. So as you can see, here's where the news dropped. And this was at one stage a big bullish candle right out to the top side, as expected. I mean, that's the thing, sort of like, even if these things, as I'm saying, okay, they're expected and you're going to have reversals, you're still going to get that initial pop, which we did get, where expectations were up, it came in up, it came in above expectations. You know, if you look for the textbook definition of these things, well, it would lead to USD or whatever currency appreciation. And that's what we got, pop there. But this is on a 5-minute candle here, 5-minute chart, and you can see how quickly the market just said nah, and they just reversed it and smacked it back down. And it really just spent the rest of the session just really oscillating around this sort of zone, going up and down and up and down. And so obviously then we sort of drifted through the rest of the US session, and here's Asia sort of opening here, and we've just seen bang, sell down quite strong into the start of the day. So yeah, certainly looking like it's on the back foot at the moment. So if we go back over to 4 hour, gonna have to clean this chart up pretty soon because there's obviously a whole bunch of things going on. But the main thing I'm sort of looking at this point here would probably be these two lines come down here, because this seems to be a fairly reasonable level of channel that we can sort of be working off. Obviously we hit this little one, that was where we popped out the other day. Excuse me, so I'll get rid of this price target. So where are we going here? So yeah, certainly it broke off this side of this sort of uptrend channel into the higher time frame resistance, which we saw in this week's obviously been a little bit of a sell down. But the thing is, with the USD and like you're not going to see this thing sort of fall over in one go. I mean, obviously, but it sort of comes up, and it's just attempting every single time. But these sort of moments where it's being sold into quite heavily here are certainly sort of giving it a nice little line in the sand. So if we sort of really drag this across here, if we call that the most current sort of support zone, we know that the buyers are sitting around here, even after this come off this top here. So, I mean, this is still very, very strong. Um, but it does also give us a good, as I said, line in the sand to sort of say, once we know that the buyers from this level are depleted, then we can start to go, okay, we've got an actual bit of a deeper sort of retracement sort of coming back here. And we're not really just biding a bit of time, taking a breather to then sort of slam back up to the top side again. So yeah, certainly, as I said on the weekend video, I was expecting this sort of little bit of USD weakness. A little bit of this up. And that's certainly what we've been getting this week. So drag this on back over here. And this will give us some levels that will sort of probably, as I said, 104 is probably sort of where I see US dollar going in the short term, just before we get a little bit more of a rally. Obviously, if we can get through the support. So we sort of flip across to Aussie. Aussie's playing very nicely now. As I said yesterday, we could see this little sort of flag pattern forming. The measure, okay, so with this the break here, we've got the sort of the pole, whatever that first move that you want to use to sort of work out your sort of price target. We were looking at this around this, I think, sort of from the '09, which was the drop on Tuesday. Obviously, then we had Wednesday morning open and we go down lower. So the longer that it sort of consolidates down here, we sort of pretty much the longer we're going to take our sort of price target or the pole back to. So obviously it brings the end price target down a little bit lower each time. So this was again sort of what happened on the CPI print. So we had the sort of obvious textbook sort of thing. Aussie sold off quite hard, but again it bounced out. If you look at how quickly this thing bounced, look, it didn't even wait sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, and it was back up above the data drop levels. And certainly on Asia Open, we're sort of pushing right up now. So we're coming into this resistance that we've been talking about all week. This is the breakout point for it all. So you got your pole, you got your sort of consolidation as it comes down here. 61% seems to have held quite well, despite this sort of, this is obviously that news-driven bit. We sort of shot it down, but more or less, this seems to have been a nice little base for it, around that 64 handle. We've seen an early sort of pop out to the top side here. And if we look at this on the 4 hour, it gives a good picture of it all, because we've got the break, we've got the back test, and now we've just really sort of powered through. And this is the highest close that we've had, certainly through this whole sort of drive here. So the fact that we've closed the 4 hour above 38, I think is quite sort of bullish for us in the short term here. Obviously, we want to get above this 50 to sort of call it confirmation, and then sort of we're looking up. As I said, this will be our new sort of price target here. And where we at? Price target here. And so this is coming in around 64.80, which we can see as well, sort of like, this is a bit of a sort of congestion area previously. We've got the heavier sort of resistance above, and these price targets are to sort of say that, okay, this is where it's going to go, and that's it. It's just in this particular analysis of this particular measured move, this is where the price target gives. So with these sort of things, I'll take a little bit of profit off the table once we get to these points. But as always, try to hold a little bit of a runner to just sort of see if we do happen to get a bit of more of a pop and a follow through to the top side. But got a new 4 hour candles that are starting at the moment. We're closing into this sort of previous support, which is then turned into obviously resistance. So for this for a little bit of a sort of pullback, make a bit of a bottom wick. If we can flip this candle here. I think this is going to be calling us. That'll be our confirmation for the break higher. Beautiful. Excellent. Certainly, sort of moving quite well at the moment. We should keep in mind we're actually 25 minutes. We've got some data coming out for Aussie as well. We've got the employment change and also the employment rate. So employment rate's expected to just hold flat at 3.7%. Employment change was previously negative 14.6 thousand, and that's expected to come in at 25.4 thousand. So quite a significant jump up there. So certainly, I think sort of if we do get these higher numbers coming in, again, textbook sort of response to this should be a further appreciation in Aussie dollar. Obviously, if the economy is going well and sort of the jobs are all ticking up, it's showing that sort of basically people at some level, however they want to cut it, are able to maintain these levels of interest rates, and obviously as jobs are going up, businesses are surviving, there is still employing people and actually expanding their employment. So they could probably sort of withstand a little bit more sort of an interest rate push. In theory, this is how it sort of seems to work. Of course, if you get the low number, then the opposite's happening. People are sort of scared, they're sort of hunkering down, they're like, look, we're not too certain about this period, so we're going to sort of hold off on hiring just to sort of get us through. That shows a bit of an idea that they're a bit scared, they're a bit worried about things. And if they're thinking like that, well, obviously they may not be so easily to absorb further interest rate rises, and market will react to that as well. So that's certainly something to watch. It could be the fuel that sort of gives us the breakout push to the top side here, or it could just be something that sort of smacks us back down into this sort of overall kind of range. As I said, we know that this is a fairly strong, this is on the 4-hour here. We've got a high break here, so of this whole move, this is the highest sort of 4-hour close we've had through here. But we've seen, obviously, this has been the sort of previous sort of support over here quite a number of times to get through it. We've tried to come back here only once. We've closed into it here. So a flip and a push here, I think sort of could definitely give us a good drive. And we could be looking up around, as I said, 64.70, 64.80, thereabouts, given with a bit of change in that to see if we can get that. But again, a lot of this sort of really sort of comes back down to US dollar. I mean, we can have great data. Aussie can sort of be like sort of looking like it's definitely going to push up, but if you've got something working against you, which is the US dollar, our data really sort of takes a bit of a backseat. Cool. All right. So flip across to gold quickly. Gold, as I said the other day, I've got two charts that I work off with this one. So let's see, where were we looking at? I think this was the other gold chart. So look, we got the breakdown here, and we've gone, obviously, it sort of flew around. It didn't respond as well to the US CPI as Aussie did. Aussie, as you saw, sort of bounced around, gold bounced around, but then coming into the close of the session, it wasn't able to hold the gains and really closed right down near the lows. It's had a nice little pop off this morning. And realistically, I think this is obviously, if you can flip down onto the hour, you see it a little bit better. It's in this tight little, nice little range, and this is giving us some good breakout levels. If we can get a close above, say, 1914, then I think we've got a good chance that this whole move down here can sort of be chalked up to a bit of a sort of fake out, and we can get a bit of a push back up into the zones over here. But of course, we need to see that follow through, as we've seen this happen a couple of times and really hasn't got out of here. So till this is back above, and I'd say a close above sort of 14.5, I'm not really super convinced on it, because of course the trend is very much to the downside here. We tried to hold it, and as soon as this broke here, bang, it just gave way. But if we flip onto the 4-hour, you can see that they've tried to push this for a continuation. So, we've got support here. It's come up, it's found resistance. Bang, we've tried to drive it down. Got bought up. Tried to drive it down, got bought up. Tried to drive it down, bought up. Even when they were managed to sort of, on a textbook, sort of close it down this zone over here, again, it's still bought up. So you're seeing like, this is buyers, 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 buyers. So we know that the buyers are really sort of sitting in around here. And this was what we mentioned the other day, that sort of that sort of 1907 being the line in the sand for it. So at the moment, it's seeming like, there's a big portion of the market that wants to buy it here. If this breaks, then of course you're going to see all those positions add to the closing them out, and you're going to see another sort of push to the downside. But as it is for right now, they're certainly holding this level quite well. So we'll have to sort of wait and see how the rest of the session sort of plays out. As I said, Asia typically pretty quiet for gold, generally about $5 ranges. So I'm not expecting too much in that, but certainly I would say in line with euro strength, with ECB pushing later tonight, you could see the DXY sell off. And while DXY is selling off, you're seeing US dollar obviously broadly sell off on that, which could be the catalyst to give gold a bit of a push back up into this zone. And certainly it'll be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of heavy levels to get through. I mean, really, till you're back above sort of 1930, you can't really sort of say you're overly sort of bullish on this. But at the moment, certainly, it's tried to go down a number of times. And if it can't go down, well, there's only really the other direction for it to go, which is to come up here. And, this falling resistance looks like it could be quite interesting if we can get a pop up off this level here. But the fact that it sort of churned so much through this sort of, 1928 to 16, it's going to take a lot to go through here. You're not going to see a nice, clean, smooth move through here. If anything, we're going to pop back up into here and continue to range through this area here, which then, of course, could sort of be leading to some level of, sorry, where have we got here? Yeah, I mean, this is a bit sort of like maybe early days thinking, but we could be sort of looking at something potentially like this, which we're giving us a inverted head and shoulders. So, I mean, as I said, this is sort of early days, but say this is what was to play out. I think certainly we're going to see a bit of a churn back up in the 20s and the 30s if we can get back up into this range, of course, and then sort of 1928, 1930 will be our breakout there. If we could, this is all sort of obviously sort of predicated on if this happens, then this happens kind of thing. But if we were to get a head and shoulders break reversal play out like this, that would then sort of be seeing us retest the highs over here. So, I mean, this isn't obviously going to happen overnight, but it's good to sort of be aware of what these potential moves could be playing out to be. This is a 4-hour candle, so this takes us through till, about a week's time if this were to sort of be perfectly measured out with a break before we sort of start to sort of see a move here. But certainly 1930, I think, is the time to sort of start to go, okay, it's the buyers are getting back in control here, and then we're going to see a nice move up here. And then once we do get these sort of moves, again, this is a lot of based on if this happens, that happens. If we can get that breakout, the inverted head and shoulders on this pullback here, which we can see again is coming in around this 61% retracement level, then that actually takes us outside this channel. And if we're outside the channel, well, that's some time to sort of look, okay, where can we look for some sort of pullbacks before sort of, a bigger move up towards that sort of major levels of sort of like 70s and 80s. And this is down the track, and this is all just sort of thinking out loud, but, this is certainly something that could potentially play out. I mean, first things first, got to get back up into the 20s. Secondly, we've got to break the 30s, and then, then we can sort of reassess from there, really. Cool. All right. So flipping across to China. China continues to sort of sell down. We're seeing, okay, this is a nice. So if you've been watching my videos, you know that I'm sort of very keen on China sort of breaking down, or at least back to this main trend. This is my price target. As to where it sort of actually hits, well, again, these things are on a sliding scale. So this is price target here. I mean, this obviously could be here, could be here, could be here, kind of thing. Basically in contact with this sort of main trend, which we can see sort of originated in January. So this is a 2023 trend and hasn't been sort of touched up since May. So quite a few months, and it's sort of pushed up here. This is the trade that I've been looking at, is the sort of rising wedge. We're coming back down. We're actually technically outside this one now, though it's a bit of a loose thing because obviously we've sort of had a couple of little sort of wicks down the bottom side here, which had then sort of shot back up previously. So you want to see a strong sort of breakdown underneath these levels. I would say underneath this wick. Um, Underneath this wick would be a good sort of confirmation. Oh, too many alerts. We'll do that one later. Would be a sort of confirmation that we're sort of seeing a bit more. So that was, let's pull this on here. Yeah, beautiful. Yep, so as you can see, it's sort of breaking down a little bit here. We want to see a break underneath this zone here because we know that this has been a very strong area for USD, Yarn, Yuan recently. So yes, I mean it's a very sort of choppy around these zones, but certainly last couple of days here we've been seeing a bit of a sort of continued push to the downside. So wait for that sort of confirmation break down here. Copper, this is interesting. It's as we sort of see here. So this really is it just popped on that Monday. As I said, sort of like, again, if you've been watching the videos, you know that sort of I'm trading this triangle, which has been very good. I mean, the price targets is just being hit and respected. Came in a little bit higher here, but we're talking a couple of cents over a sort of 15-month trend line, so not too bad. But in the short term, as I was mentioning yesterday, so this is Monday's pop. We'll come back here. Haven't even managed to be able to sort of get it through the 38% line, which has sort of set up a nice sort of little support here. But ultimately, you can see how many times it's tried to push out of this zone, and it just is still unable to get that close. So the close out the top here is the confirmation that we want. Then the pullback, and then sort of reload a little bit, retest, hold that, break that, whatever that close outside would be, and then that's a confirmation, and that's the next target where we've sort of seen those sellers previously. But at the moment, sort of it's certainly holding this range, so the buyers are very much happy to scoop up anything, and they're not even letting it pass the 38%, which means that the trend is still quite strong. This immediate short-term little move that we've got going on here. So with these sort of things, if you want to sort of go, okay, look, as we say, this is the sort of pole, as it were. These will give you sort of almost two price targets. So one will be this break here, which you can see pretty much takes us back in contact with that sort of main falling resistance. A shorter price target would just be this expansion of the range, and this would be your first sort of price target. So distance of the size of the range, and then sort of pop to the top side, and then second target will be this one up the top over here, which is in contact with this main falling resistance. And then again, we sort of see what happens. Do we go on? And I mean, we've still got, this takes us out to sort of mid-October to really sort of to get to the end of this triangle. And even if it does get to this point here, it's not a guaranteed break. It can still really just dribble sideways up and down. So you're going to need the fundamental driver to break it one way or the other, and that's going to be US dollar. It's coming into some heavy resistance at the moment on a weekly sort of time frame. If it can't sort of get up above that level, then we're going to see that sell off. That could be the power to give it to copper to push to the top side. China recovery, any sort of positive talk there, that's going to give it a drive to push to the top side. And the inverse of that as well. If the US dollar does break that level, we do see sort of continued weakness in China, then we're going to see sort of break to the downside. So yeah, certainly it's really just up and down now at the moment. I mean, if we zoom right out, this gives you a better picture of how tight the copper market is getting at the moment. Look at the size of these swings previously, and now we're just not giving up anything. So this will be a big sort of area. So I think sort of coming into the end of this year, we're really going to get a big idea of where copper's going to be going over sort of early part, first half of 2024. Cool. Okay, and that's about it for me this morning.